morning. It's Saturday, March 21st, 2026. Special day, and here's Jackie.
Hi, we've been having a lot of fun at the History Center this morning. Joel Miller sent home movies that his grandpa, Dr. L.A. Miller Sr., or Old Doc as we called him, a bunch of home movies from the olden days. And so we've been watching them on the screen here, and we're going to get those so they'll be available for people to see. This diary was written by Libby Wade. She was my dad's great aunt, and her full name was Mary Elizabeth Claypool Wade. She will turn 76 years old in 1950. She lives in a house on East Oak Street in North English, Iowa with her son Russell. Here's a picture of Lib with her great-granddaughter Barbara Wade. October 14th, 1950. Lee Carter and Joellen Wagner married today at Keswick. Lee Carter was the son of the Alfred Carters and the nephew of longtime North English residents Gilma Mahanna and her brother Onel or Tiki Carter. Lee is in this picture from the 1939 fourth grade at North English Grade School. He is the second from the left in the back row. Shortly after Lee and Joellen Carter were married, Lee returned to the service during the Korean conflict, where he earned a Purple Heart. Ultimately settling in Charles City, Iowa, Lee had a successful life of hard work in the Iowa grain industry and in real estate, and then his family retired to the McAllen, Texas area. His bride was Joellen Wagner, the aunt of my classmate Connie Dennis Pfeiffer. Joellen was a sister to Catherine Dennis. Lee Carter was a family friend to the Wades and had recently visited in 1950 to tell Lib and Russell about his travels in the service. Still nice weather. The stove is nicer by daylight. Sure is a beauty. You might remember from last week's diary, Lib and her son Russell have just purchased a new Gibson range. I saw Mrs. O'Brien and called her in to pay her for the pears. 60 cents was what she charged me. Anne O'Brien White had been in town visiting her mother, Susie O'Brien, shown here with her late husband John. Anne dropped off some pears for Lib. As Susie O'Brien is walking past, Lib asked her in to pay her for the pears. Susie O'Brien was the grandmother of my listener John Gregan from Waldorf, Maryland, and also my good friend Patty Fobert from Topeka, Kansas. I don't want those this week yet.
Okay.
If you want to take them off there, because I'm afraid I don't want to bump them. Okay, back to Susie O'Brien. Was the grandmother of my listener John Gregan from Waldorf, Maryland, and also my good friend Patty Fobert from Topeka, Kansas, as well as the grandmother of Renee Weldon and John O'Brien, my classmate Debbie O'Brien, etc. I wondered why Lib calls her Mrs. O'Brien and her sister Minnie Agnew Mrs. Agnew, and the reason is simple. Before the days of consolidated schools, there were various settlements around North English. Susie and Minnie, whose maiden names were Healy, were from the predominantly Catholic area west of town known as Armagh, and Lib was raised as a Protestant at Yankee Point and Green Valley east of town. Now that the widowed women have moved to town, their children and grandchildren attend school in town and socialize together, so the women are beginning to learn about each other. Mary Newhouse came when we were eating dinner. She had been to Iowa City yesterday with Mary Wagner and her mother. Mrs. Wagner had an operation a few weeks ago. Mary Newhouse is a neighbor who often does errands for Lib. She is the younger woman in the middle back row of this picture. Mary Wagner, who she went to Iowa City with, attended St. Joseph's Catholic Church in North English when I was a child. The Wagner family home was at the corner where the Millersburg pavement turns north towards Millersburg on the east side of the road. Mary Wagner was single and the caretaker for the children of Belle and Dr. J.D. Roller. Mary Newhouse called on Mrs. Carson at the hospital. She is in a very bad way, I think. Had more skin grafting. Belle Carson is on the left side of this picture, shown here with Pearl Warner and her husband, W.C. Carson. The Carsons are Lib's neighbors across the street. I sent for some crochet thread by Mary Newhouse. Mary Regseger stopped on her way to town. She brought me a lovely birthday card and a handkerchief. They are all so pretty. Mary Regseger is Lib's friend who is walking to town to do her shopping. She is the little girl in this picture. Jack Dixon and his brother Charles came and installed a new telephone for us. My birthday gift from Wayne, Warren, and Anna, I guess. Harrison, Jack Dixon, and Charles Dixon were originally from the Hinkletown area, and more can be found about them, the Dixon family, in the Hinkletown book by Dave Jackson from the History Center. Donald Dixon, who ran the fair store in North English for many years, was the son of Jack Dixon. Wayne is Lib's oldest son. He's shown in this picture with his wife, Jenny Wade. Warren, shown on the left in this picture with his wife, Lena, and younger daughter, Judy, and older daughter, Phyllis, is Lib's second son. And this is Lib's daughter, Anna. She lives in Texas. The three of them got together and bought the telephone for their mother for her birthday present. Those here this PM were Warren, Lena, Judy, Mary R., Mattie K., and Maud and Jenny. Mattie Knipfer was born Samantha Ballard, and this is her birth family, the John Newton Ballard Sr. family. She is on the right side in the front row in this picture. Maud Claypool is married to Lib's nephew, Ray Claypool. She's a neighbor and a friend. And Jenny Wade was married to Lib's oldest son, Wayne or Perky Wade. After supper, Russell went back to work. Russell Wade is in the center of this picture with his older brothers, Wayne, and his older brother Wayne and his younger brother Warren. Russell works at the nearby Home Lumber Company, and you might note that it is Saturday night and he is going back to work after supper, as businesses were often open in the evenings back in those days. Mary Newhouse came, then Maud and Amy and the children. Amy Hervey is Maud Claypool's married daughter, and her small children in 1950 were Ray Hervey, Lyle Hervey, and Virginia Hervey. Ruth Bursler brought us a chicken for $1.50, a nice fat one. Belva came for the evening. She brought, for my birthday, a nice chicken dressed and a dozen eggs. We had a nice visit. I don't get to see her often. Belva Wade Yoss is Libby's oldest granddaughter. Belva is married to Don Yoss. The reason Libby doesn't get to see her very often is because Belva has two small children, Mick and Cindy Yoss. Sandra and Judy were here later. Sandra Hahn, whose name is now Sandra Shetler, was with her cousin Judy Wade. Judy Wade is Lib's youngest granddaughter. Sunday, October 15th, 1950. A lovely day and a nice time at Warren's. My family and Minnie's all got together. Harry's boys were not there, but Don's little girl was with Carol. Aunt Minnie Claypool is Lib's sister-in-law, the wife of her late brother, Verner. Minnie's birthday is the day after Lib's, so they usually celebrate together. And here's a picture of Minnie and Lib together. Lib's on the left and Minnie's on the right. Harry Joe Claypool, age 60, was Minnie's oldest son and Lib's firstborn nephew, so he was born when Lib was 16 years old. Harry's wife was Carol. I knew Harry because he lived until I was 15 years old, and after my grandparents' house burned, he roomed with my grandparents in Susie O'Brien's rental on East Oak Street. Carolyn Claypool, known as Carol. I don't remember her, but we were amazed to find when we were looking at this young picture of Carol how much her great-granddaughter Meredith Sopko in Florida resembles her. Meredith is the daughter of my friend and cousin Debbie Claypool Sopko. Harry and Carol's sons were Don Claypool and Jack Claypool, and they did not attend the party, but I will tell you more about them in today's feature story. But Harry and Carol's little, almost 3-year-old granddaughter did attend the party. Her name is Wanda Claypool, and she is shown in this picture a couple years later with her baby sister Carolyn. My thanks to Carolyn Claypool Atwood from Jensen Beach, Florida, for this special picture. Marion wasn't able to go. All the others were there, except Elna in service. Kathleen was there with her baby Roseanne, 5 weeks old. The family that Lib is mentioning here is the family of the second son of Aunt Minnie, Roy Claypool. Lester Hinkles came from near Vinton. Diana and Dwayne are their family. Elsie and Harvey Parker and Luella's little girl Becky from Iowa City came. Elsie Dayton Claypool Parker was the ex-wife of Lib's nephew Jonty Claypool. Libs was friends with Elsie because when she was married to Jonty, they lived across the road from Lib's family out at Yankee Point. Elsie's daughter Luella and her husband Derlin or Dooley Bailey adopted a boy and a girl, Bobby and Becky Bailey. All of Wayne's were here at the dinner except Harold's. Melva's father is staying with them and they had plans for the evening. This is the Wayne Wade family a few years earlier. In the front from left, Hazel Cobb, Jenny and Wayne, and in the back on the left, Harold or Stub Wade, Belva Yoss, Evelyn Kurtz, and Walter or Bud Wade. We had a very nice dinner, and everyone enjoyed being there. We each received cards and gifts. Elsie was too late for dinner. She brought a nice cake decorated with candy and candles and our names. Lib sent the following story to the newspaper. I pretty much can tell she wrote it because she refers to almost everyone by their proper given names. Birthday dinner Sunday honors 2 ladies. The Warren Wade home last Sunday was the scene of a happy family gathering, which honored the birthdays of Mrs. Minnie Claypool and Mrs. Libby Wade. A dinner featuring fine food and lovely cakes was prepared and served by the women attending. The celebrants received many lovely birthday gifts and pronounced the day one to remember for a long time. Those present were Mrs. Minnie Claypool and Dean, Mr. and Mrs. Harry Claypool, Alberta and Wanda, Mr. and Mrs. Ronald Sawyer and Roseanne of Watcheer, Mr. and Mrs. Ray Claypool, Mr. and Mrs. Elroy Hervey, Ray Lyle and Virginia, Mr. and Mrs. Leighton Claypool, Harold, Jean, Winston, and Leighton Lee, Mrs. Libby Wade and Russell, Mr. and Mrs. Wayne Wade, Mr. and Mrs. Don Yoss, Michael and Lucinda, Mr. and Mrs. Wayne Kurtz, Suzanne and Kathy, Mr. and Mrs. Walter Wade, Claudia and Jimmy, Mr. and Mrs. Glenn Cobb and Robert, Mr. and Mrs. Warren Wade, Phyllis and Judith, Mr. and Mrs. John Long, Richard and Delmer of Vinton, Mr. and Mrs. Francis Wade, Karen, Margaret, Johnny, and Robert of Kinross, Mr. and Mrs. Lester Hinkle, Diana and Dwayne of Vinton, and Mr. and Mrs. Harvey Parker and granddaughter Rebecca Bailey from Iowa City. My grandparents, John and Bertha Geringer, were not in attendance at the party for Aunt Lib and Aunt Minnie, which was quite surprising to me because my Aunt Bertha and Lib were so close. I read ahead in the diary and found out why. I will tell you next week. I am tired tonight. Russell is away. Walter came up and brought a chest of drawers. A gift from them, Harold's and Hazel's. It will be very nice. Walter and Harold and Hazel are three of the grandkids who were the children of Jenny and Perky Wade. Ruth Bursler called, had been down to see Hattie. She is getting better and expects to be home in a few days. Hattie Killian, shown here in this picture, is Ruth Bursler's sister. Hattie is a friend and a neighbor of Lib's who has had a hysterectomy and is battling cancer. Hattie is hospitalized at the University of Iowa Hospitals in Iowa City. Dial Dennison's moved to Winter's house yesterday. Mr. and Mrs. Dial Dennison, who were newly married, have just purchased a house from Winter West. Here's a picture of Dial. He was the brother of Gene Dennison, Wilford Dennison, etc. That's the end of the diaries for today. A lot of work goes on behind the scenes to keep the History Center operating. This includes cataloging accessions, creating displays, coordinating and preparing for monthly programs, responding to requests for family and community histories, keeping up the social media, finances, cleaning, maintenance, and providing treats for programs. There's a whole lot more activity that supports the center operations, and it is largely contributed through time and effort by the board of directors and volunteers. The History Center board is composed of Dave Jackson, president, Scott Romine, vice president, Bonnie Romine, secretary, Don Banning, treasurer, and directors Carolyn Elwood, Shelley Gerard, Alan Ackerman, and Dan Best. Please send donations to the English Valley's History Center, P.O. Box 70, North English, Iowa, 52316. I found this ad in the newspaper from Lib's neighbor across the street who does nursing services in her home. Hushabye House is now open to expectant mothers. Applied for Blue Cross and hospital insurance. Mrs. Minnie Zilmer, North English. You might remember that we were talking about George Patterson that Lib mentioned last week in the diaries, and Dave Jackson said he knew who that was right while I was broadcasting. Dave Jackson says, George, or Pat Patterson, went to Green Valley School and also helped with the Hinkletown book. He was such a nice guy. He sent me the great photo of Dempsey Wade with the car and beer and the images of the boys, his brothers Roy and Carl, who did all the hunting and trapping. Dave continued, George was one of the real helpful, friendly, and funny people who got involved in the Hinkletown stuff. I wish I could have met him because I really felt like I personally knew his whole family. Roy, Dean, Carl, Galen, and the rest. George or Pat Patterson served in the U.S. Army from 1951 to 1953 in Germany and briefly in the Korean War. George was an electrician for Collins Radio Company traveling the world. He settled in Arizona where he became a home builder and an independent contractor. Here's a picture of the home of his parents, Charles and Addie Patterson, and a picture he sent of Carl Patterson, Marlo Mathis, Roy Patterson and Floyd Ballard hunting foxes. This is a reminder that the next alumni luncheon group will meet at the Main Street Pub and Grub in North English on this Monday, March 23rd at 11:30 a.m. Please contact Linda Holden Carter or Alice Floring Stramer for reservations. And here's a list of programs that will be featured at the History Center in 2026. For more information, you can join the English Valleys History Center Facebook page or do a pause on this screen if you're watching on YouTube. Randy Feiselman will start us off next Sunday, March 29th at 2 p.m. with a discussion of her recent book, The Union First, Community and Commitment in the 1st Iowa Infantry. Bob and Christy Black will be singing and playing Civil War music too. News of an upcoming reunion. To commemorate the 125th wedding anniversary of D.C. Toomey and Teresa Murphy this summer, their descendants are hosting an open house style family reunion for Toomey, Murphy, O'Rourke, McGurk family members on Sunday, June 13th at 11:30 a.m. at St. Michael's Hall in Holbrook. Teresa Basson is the point of contact, and she can be reached at teresa.bossone@gmail.com for more information. All 6 family members of the original Toomey immigrant ancestor family, Daniel, Timothy, John, Dennis, Johanna, and their mother Mary, are all buried at St. Michael's. And Kelly, also known as the cemetery guy, has been working to refresh their gravestones for the occasion. Fun fact, 85 years ago, almost to the date, the same surname group held a family reunion before their sons went off to World War II, with the California Toomeys making the trip cross-country. Their descendants, as well as those from Florida and Arizona, will be joining to learn about family history and the community their ancestors called home. Correspondence. Susie Allison Lundberg from Iowa City said, "Well done, Jackie. Very interesting broadcast, and the photos were great. What a treasure that the History Center has Lola Martin's beautiful quilt hanging there. I've admired it each and every time I'm there and will remember her with fondness. And lastly, a very happy 20th birthday to the English Valleys History Center." Mark Claypool from Sigourney said, "Jackie, what a spectacular week of history. So many wonderful pictures, and I learned so many things about the family. You continue to rock this program every week." Pam Kavanaugh Shield from Cedar Rapids said, "Love your broadcast, Jackie. You bring the past memories alive. Thank you for your diligent interest and work." My third cousins from Mountain Home, Arkansas, wrote to say that they are completely addicted to my broadcasts, and each week I leave them hungry for more. Cindy Weber from Kyoto said, "Once again, we truly appreciate all you do with the podcast. We learn something new every week." Also, Cindy wants to make a copy of the book, The Iowa Descendants of Jacob Claypool, that I and Pat Anderson put together about 30 years ago. My copy is all out of order because I used pages out of it. If anyone knows where Cindy can borrow a copy, please let us know. Feature story. The family of Lib's brother, Verner Hinkle Claypool, who was known as Vernie Claypool, and his wife, Anna Louise, or Minnie Claypool. You might remember that we have shown this picture of Lib Claypool's birth family, taken in 1894, several times before. Lib is the young woman in the center of the picture. Her little nephew, Roy Claypool, is right behind her, being held by his dad, Verner Hinkle Claypool. Bernie's wife, Minnie Claypool, is beside Lib, and Vernie and Minnie's little boy, Henry Joseph, or Harry Joe Claypool, is in front of her, holding the hand of his grandfather, Jonathan Claypool. Now we move on to the next picture we have of the Jonathan Claypool family, taken in 1907. By that time, Harry Joe Claypool was 17 and Roy was 14 years old. Roy Claypool is on the right side in the back in overalls, and Harry Joe Claypool is beside him. Their younger brother, Ray Claypool, is on the other side of the porch, around the pole from where Lib Wade is holding baby Russell. Their little brother, Leighton or Happy Claypool, is sitting down on the porch below Harry Joe and Roy. Their baby brother, Cecil Dean, or Dean Claypool, looks like a little girl with curly locks. Baby Dean is perched between Grandma Ann Mariah Claypool and Bertha Claypool. Dean's mother, Minnie Claypool, is behind him. She is the thin woman in the white blouse, and her husband, Verner Hinkle Claypool, is behind her with a hat on his head. And here is the picture of the family of Verner and Minnie Claypool and their 5 boys taken a few years later. In the back from left, Harry, Roy, Ray, and Leighton Claypool, and in the front, Minnie, Dean, and Verner Claypool. If you were wondering, Verner Hinkle Claypool got his middle name from his mother's maiden name. She was Ann Mariah Hinkle before she married Jonathan Claypool. Harry Joe Claypool was their oldest boy. He was married to Carolyn or Carol Burns. Their 3 children were John Harry or Jack Claypool, Alberta Carolyn or Bert Claypool, and Don Francis Claypool. Jack Claypool was in the Army during World War II. Jack married Evelyn Bear from Keswick. They left Iowa in 1959 to move to Mountain Home, Arkansas, where they ran a resort, and he later worked construction. All of their children are in this picture. From left, Jackie, Jill, Jack and Evelyn, Jerry, and Shirley Joe. Shirley and I have worked on genealogy together, and she and her husband Vince came up from Mountain Home, Arkansas to visit us at the History Center last year. Jack's brother Don Francis Claypool was in the Navy during World War II and returned home to marry Ruth Moffett from North English. They later divorced, and Don married Pat Darling Street. Don and Ruth's children were in the back, Carolyn, Gary, and Suzanne, and in the front, Wanda and Debbie. Carolyn lives in Jensen Beach, Florida, and never misses a week of my broadcasts. Susie and Wanda live in Texas, and I think they watch too. Debbie and I were close friends growing up, and Gary was in my class, so I was well acquainted with all of them. As teenagers, my girlfriends affectionately referred to their mother, Ruth Claypool, as Mama Ruth. Jack and Don Claypool's only sister was Alberta, or Bert Claypool. She is shown here with her 1938 second grade class. Bert is the 3rd girl from the left in this picture, in the front row, and the girl next to her is her lifelong friend, my aunt, Joanne Harris Geringer. Bert Claypool married Larry Kaufman, and they raised their sons, Tom and Mike and Dave or Red Kaufman in Williamsburg, where Larry and Bert Kaufman owned several businesses. Mike Kaufman and his wife Val and their daughter Kate Robertson live in Belle Plaine, where I now reside. And here is a picture of Bert Kaufman in later years. The next two boys in the Verner and Minnie Claypool family were Roy and Ray Claypool, who both served in World War I. Ray is on the left and Roy is on the right in this picture. Roy was captured in France and was a prisoner of war. And here is Roy's military picture. Roy Orville Claypool married Essie Gale Butler, and they had 4 girls. In the back, from left, Artis, Marion, Kathleen, and Elna. The 3 oldest girls were all in the service. And in the front are Gale and Roy. Marion Enid Claypool had a stroke after she arrived home from the service. In 1950, she was not in good enough shape to make it to her Grandma Minnie and Great Aunt Lib's birthday party across town. Marion made her home with her parents just west of the implement dealer on West Lakeview Street in North English. Their house was one of my regular stops on the way home from school, where Roy pumped me full of Claypool history and we played card games with Marion. Roy and Gale's next girl was Atha Kathleen Claypool. Kathleen was in the waves during World War II and married Ronald Sawyer. Kathleen brought her newborn girl, Roseanne, to Lib and Minnie's birthday party in 1950. Their 3 other children were Wayne, Linda, and Alan. Ron and Kathleen Sawyer farmed near Watcher for 47 years, and their children attended Tri-County schools. I knew Kathleen when she attended shows at the Opera House in Watcher, where I was a longtime volunteer. Elna Marie Claypool was also in the service, and she moved to Maryland to live. Elna married Joseph DeJordy, and I found the following children listed for her: Denise, Philip, Anthony, Thomas, and James. Roy and Gale Claypool's youngest daughter was Minnie Artis Claypool. Artis, or Artie as we called her, was in the North English class of 1949 with my mother, Etheldean Keller Geringer Abbott. Artie married Paul Weber, and they farmed near Kinross. Consequently, the Weber children attended English Valley's high school with us, and since Artie had even more children than Etheldean, we had lots of Weber friends and classmates. About half of the Webers listen to my broadcasts, and I play Words with Friends with my classmate Nancy Weber and her sister Mary Weber. The oldest child of Paul and Artie Weber was David Weber. David graduated in 1972 and passed away from cancer right after he turned 21. The rest of the family of Paul and Artis Weber are shown here. In the back, Andy, Cindy, Laura, Peggy, Joe, Carol, and Bill. And in the front, Nancy, Paul and Artie, and Mary. Ray Claypool family. The 3rd son of Minnie and Verner Claypool was Ray Nelson Claypool. Ray was married to Maud Foster Claypool. Ray was a janitor at the school, and Maud was a friend and neighbor of Ray's Aunt Lib in our 1950 diaries. I don't remember Ray, as he only lived to age 65. Maud lived to be 89 years old and lived in her later years in a house just west of my friend Helen Kirkpatrick on West Clark Street. Ray and Maud had one daughter, Amy. And I don't know where my Amy picture went. It doesn't seem to be in my list here. I will get that and show it to you another time. Amy was married to Elroy Hervey, and they lived their final years in South English, Iowa. I knew them because I lived in South English, and it was really a small town. Amy and Elroy's children all attended English Valley schools. This is Ray Hervey, who was the oldest. And this is Lyle Hervey. Their only girl was Virginia Hervey. The three oldest all attended Lib Minnie's party in 1950. And the two youngest boys were Edward Hervey and Darrell Hervey. Now for the family of Leighton Claypool and his wife Gertrude Singleton Claypool. Leighton, or Happy Claypool, was the fourth son of Verner and Minnie Claypool. Happy and Gertie lived near the grade school playground in North English, and I dropped by there a few times as I was a very social child. And when I was older, they helped me with genealogy. Gertie's maiden name was Singleton, so we are also related on the Carter side of the family, which is a story for another day. This is the picture of Happy and Gertie on their 50th anniversary in 1975. In this picture, Leighton, or Happy Claypool, is shown on the left side sitting on a stool during the 1954 centennial in North English.
How long will it work?
Heading back to the 1930s, to this picture of them in a Singleton family group picture in 1933. Leighton, or Happy Claypool, is on the left side holding their little girl, Marilyn Claypool. Gertie is beside him, and the two little boys in the front row from the left are Lloyd, and Harold is beside him in overalls. The family had a tragedy in 1938 when Doris Marilyn Claypool passed away before her fifth birthday. According to her death certificate, she suffered from atrophic arthritis and had a tonsillectomy 3 days before she passed away. 3 months later, 8-year-old Lloyd Claypool passed away from a ruptured appendix. Lloyd Claypool is shown here in this picture with his second grade class in 1938. He is the second child from the left in the middle row. And here's a picture of the three remaining Claypool children before their youngest brother Leighton was born. This is Harold on the left, then Winston, and then Jean. Harold Claypool, who was the oldest, ran a feed store in North English at the south end of Main Street. We ventured in there sometimes on our way walking to or from school, as North English didn't have school buses in town in those days. Harold was married to Betty Utterback, and their three children were Linda, David, and Mary. Their oldest daughter, Linda, was in my class in school until the family moved to Sigourney to reside. The next son of Happy and Gertie Claypool was Norman Jean, but he was always called Jean. Jean was married to Dolores Speece. Their two boys are Mark and Mike Claypool. Mark is on the left. Mark Claypool does quality control on my Saturday broadcasts as he watches them as soon as they come out to make sure there is sound, the pictures are okay, etc., and that I haven't made any mistakes. We also like it when he visits the History Center as he has a real good memory for the olden days in North English. The next boy in the Happy Claypool family is Winston Ray Claypool. Here's a picture of Winston and his wife Carolyn Claypool and their oldest grandson Sam. Winston arrives at the History Center on Saturday mornings for coffee, especially in the summertime.
Here.
Winston and Carolyn's two girls are Tina and Tammy. In this family group picture from about 10 years ago, Tammy is behind her dad's shoulder, and Tina is on the right side of the picture. Leighton Claypool is the youngest son of Leighton and Gertie Claypool. He was married to Karen Bauer, and they had two girls, Krista and Kendra. Leighton Claypool and his wife, the former Sherry Krill, now live in the country by Delta, Iowa. The youngest son of Dean of Verner and Minnie Claypool was Cecil Dean Claypool, who was called Dean Claypool. Dean served in World War II and was living with his mother in 1950 when Lib and Minnie celebrated their birthdays together. Here's a picture. Dean Claypool is on the left with Jim Lindsay and Dave Mahana, and we can't exactly figure out where this picture was taken, but the men were associated with the Neoco Oil Company at the south end of Main Street in North English. Dean married Thelma Cobb Lown Claypool later in life. Thelma was a widow and the mother of Darlene Verconti from North English. And here is a picture of Dean and Thelma Claypool. If you have additions or corrections or pictures to add to this story or any story that I tell, please let me know. Our sympathies today to the family of Donna Knipfer. She was Donna Snakenberg when she graduated from English Valleys High School in 1965. Her sisters are Linda Melcher, Patricia Miller, and the late Carmen Snakenberg. I knew Donna when she operated the soundboard at the Watcher Opera House, while her husband, Stan Knipfer, played in the bands on stage. Stan Knipfer is shown here with Donna. Stan is the grandson of Lib's neighbor and friend, Millie Knipfer. Our sympathies today to the family of Lois Ralston. She was Lois Simmons when she graduated from English Valleys in 1960. Lois was the daughter of Hank and Jenny Simmons, and their family attended St. Joseph's Catholic Church with us when I was a child. In other North English news, we are headed to the Main Street Pub and Grub for their couple times a month morning breakfast this morning, and we are happy to report that Trent Forrest and Jake McLaughlin have purchased Don and Jerry's Cafe, or Butch's Cafe as it has been known in later years. They will be expanding their business with more seating, a billiard room, etc. I won't be at the Pub and Grub for the English Valleys Graduates Luncheon on Monday, but hope to see you all again there real soon. And as Dave was alluding to when we first started, we have a wonderful, wonderful acquisition that we got from Carolyn Warner, and we'll be showing it to you next week. We are also interested in learning about historical English Valleys items that you might wish to donate to the History Center. Please contact Dave Jackson, Scott Romine, or any board member to donate. Thanks, and we'll see you next week.
And that's a wrap. Thanks, Jackie.
You know, y'all